Greetings everyone, and welcome to another Timey-Wimey Tuesday Blu-ray update. Today, not Doctor Who, but some other British sci-fi, some of which is arguably some of the most important British sci-fi in the entire history of the genre. Now, you may have heard me mention the name Quatermass from time to time, and a while back I picked up all of the existing Quatermass material, the original BBC miniseries that are all in a nice box set that came out ages ago, all three of the movies that Hammer put out, and even the live show that they did of the first story, the original Quatermass experiment in 2005. And yeah, so there was a couple of significant additional titles that I wanted to add into the collection to make it truly complete, and well, I finally got them. But not just those, because around the same time that I was hunting those two titles down, something else came out, also written by Quatermass's creator, Nigel Kneale. Nigel Kneale was a fantastic writer and really one of the true pioneers of British science fiction, because with Quatermass and a lot of the other material that he wrote for both television and film, he was one of the people who really helped to elevate science fiction beyond its kind of pulpy roots in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, where, you know, prior to that, science fiction was seen largely as low-budget, cheesy, kind of just light action adventure fare. But when we got into the late 50s and 60s, we started to see more sort of cautionary tales and more kind of thought-provoking sci-fi that went beyond simply being a guy in a monster suit stomping around terrorizing young ladies. So what did I get? Well, let's check them out. 3 titles from the legendary Nigel Kneale, completing my Quatermass collection and adding something else that I didn't even know existed until I stumbled across this really cool Blu-ray set of it. Today on the Multimedia Chronicles.
Just before we begin, I wanted to make it clear that, yes, I am very aware that Hammer Films recently became their own in-house boutique label, and as part of their first wave of ultra-deluxe limited edition collector's sets, they've released box sets of the first 2 Quatermass films, Quatermass Experiment and Quatermass 2. Rest assured, I have ordered both of them. The first has already arrived, and the second is on its way. I make no mention of any of these things in the following video because they hadn't been announced at the time it was filmed. Needless to say, there will be videos about both sets. They are so deluxe that they will be getting videos of their own. In the meantime, here's the rest of the collection. Enjoy.
Welcome back. So, at some point, now that I finally have the collection complete, you can darn well bet I'm going to do a closer look at the whole collection. It's something I've been wanting to do for literally years, but I've had to keep putting off because I hadn't got my hands on these last 2 remaining titles. So first off, they recently did a remaster of arguably the most popular of the original 3 Quatermass serials, Quatermass and the Pit, on Blu-ray. And the reason only this one is on Blu-ray and not the other 2, well, a couple reasons. The first one, they don't have all 6 parts because they didn't record all 6 parts back in 1955. They recorded the first couple of episodes The powers that be decided the quality wasn't as good as they were hoping, so they didn't bother to record the other 4. So they were only ever seen live when they were originally broadcast, and sadly, as a result, we only have the first 2 parts of the 6-part serial. Now that said, as I mentioned in the intro there have been a few adaptations of the original serials in different forms. Hammer did a movie adaptation, and in 2005 they did a live performance of it, which essentially told the same story, just condensed down to 2 hours instead of the 2.5 hours that the original 6-part serial would have been. So what about Quatermass 2? Why doesn't that have a Blu-ray release? Well, the reason Quatermass 2 doesn't have a Blu-ray release is because of the way it was recorded back in the 50s. Again, recording live broadcasts was still fairly new in British television at the time, and they were still kind of figuring out the best way to do it. Most of the time, they would just film the screen of a monitor, like with a special kind of like a telecine machine, and record it to film. So they did that with Quatermass 2. So we have all 6 parts, but they used kind of a crummy deinterlacing technique. Of course, the original broadcast would have been on video with an interlaced PAL display. The typical way to do that is by what they call blending the fields. See, each frame would be made up of 2 interlaced fields, one displaying the even scan lines, one displaying the odd scan lines, and it would flip back and forth between them 50 times a second to give you 25 continuous frames. So when they deinterlace them, there's a couple different methods you can do that. The ideal method is to combine the 2 fields that make up the single frame, and then you have what's called a blended progressive frame, which looks very nice on film. So for Quatermass 2, for some reason, they use what they called a suppressed field technique, which basically eliminates one of the fields entirely and only records the output from one. So the result is, when you have a deinterlaced or progressive image made from a suppressed field video frame, it looks jaggy, like you lose literally half the resolution, and it really shows. So that version is on the Quatermass DVD collection of the TV shows, but you know, and it's nice to have it complete, but the quality is definitely much lower than even the previous Quatermass one that was supposedly low quality. I think the first one looks great. I don't know what that executive that made that decision was thinking, and it's a real shame we don't have that one recorded as well. But by the time they got around to doing Quatermass and the Pit, which was the 3rd one, they kind of figured out the best way to do those film recordings. Not to mention the fact they actually recorded a lot of it straight to film in the first place. So yeah, there's a lot of really high quality source elements available for this, which made it an ideal subject for remastering for Blu-ray, and that's what this is. In fact, if you go, they have a booklet here that comes with it that goes into considerable detail about the remastering process and why this particular serial was perfectly suited for Blu-ray. So, needed to get that one in the collection, obviously, not to mention the fact this is an absolute banger of a story. If you've only seen the Hammer Films version, which is also excellent, do yourself a treat and get this. This is the original 6-part serial version, complete, uncut, and I think this actually is even more uncut than the DVDs because it has a little bit of additional footage that they were able to work back in. But, so if we take a look here, just make sure you don't have any glare. Give you a little look at the cover there. Quite nice. If you know the story at all, you'll know exactly what that thing is on the cover. I won't spoil it for you because it is kind of part of the mystery. But and then if we look at the back, as you can see, there's quite a lot of additional material on there. They really did a nice job of this one, making it a properly deluxe edition and an absolute treat for Quatermass fans. So let me just read the back here to you. We'll just kind of go over the special features. So we got brand new commentaries featuring members of the original cast and crew presented by Toby Hadoke. That is no small feat considering how old this is. When did this come out? Originally 1958, yeah. Crazy. So it's amazing that there was even people still alive from this to do the commentary, so that's a real treat. A newly compiled photo gallery including a number of previously unreleased images from the show's original production. A compilation of alternate title sequences from the BBC archives, Making Demons visual effects featurette, and archived documentary content covering the 1958 production. So yeah, I mean, that is an absolute treat. So great stuff. I haven't sat down and watched this entire Blu-ray yet, but I did take a skim through it when I first got it, and it looks amazing. Like, I've never seen this serial look this good. So this is great. Overjoyed to finally have that in the collection. Next up, in 1985, they did a fourth Quatermass serial, simply called Quatermass. And it was also compiled into a movie compilation. Rather than Hammer coming along and doing a remake, they just did their own movie version based on the serial, which is about half the length, honestly. The original serial was 4-hour-long episodes in this case, rather than 6 half-hour episodes, so it does run a little longer than the other ones. Stars John Mills and Simon McCorkindale, who's an actor I've always really liked. So the movie version was retitled The Quatermass Conclusion, which is actually kind of a fitting title because this was the last Quatermass serial. That's it. Also written by Nigel Kneale. Now, a lot of fans of the Quatermass serials seem to be of the opinion that this one isn't as good as the others, and I can see why. It doesn't quite have the same bite that the other ones did, but it's still very good. And this Blu-ray was the first time I'd ever seen it. And I was really lucky to get it, too, because it's actually a release from Network, which was a wonderful British boutique label that sadly closed their doors a few years ago. I've talked about them before, I think, but a great company that had some terrific releases of British movies and TV shows, a lot of which you couldn't get anywhere else. In fact, I don't think this has had a re-release since the Network release. I'm sure it will at some point, but it's great to finally have it in the collection and to have finally been able to see it, because it was the only piece of the Quatermass saga that I hadn't seen yet. So it's great to finally have it and have the collection properly complete. So let's spin it around here and we'll take a look at the contents. Again, quite a lot of stuff on here. It's a very nice set, and I like that it gives you both versions, the original uncut miniseries version and the cut down feature-length version. So we'll just quickly go over the special features. The Quatermass Conclusion, an alternative feature-length edit, newly restored in HD. Brand new 5.1 mix for the episodic version. By the way, these were just shot on film, so it was really easy to do the the high def conversion for it. It was all shot, as it says right on the back there, shot on 35mm, and this is all restored from the original negatives. Music only tracks for all 4 episodes, episode recaps, textless titles, image gallery, trailer, and a booklet by archive TV historian Andrew Pixley. So I guess actually not a lot in the way of actual extras. They seem to be just kind of listing the features as special features. But anyway, it is cool to have both versions. So the booklet, yeah, this is actually, and then it does list the contents of the discs on the inside there, and yeah, so it has the miniseries on disc 1 and the movie version and other special features on the second disc. Well, special features such as they are. So what do we have here? Yeah, so Quatermass Viewing Notes by Andrew Pixley. So essentially this gives you like a bunch of info about the making of it and sort of the history of the Quatermass series and whatnot. But the reason that I say Quatermass is kind of Doctor Who adjacent is, well, Season 7 of Doctor Who recently came out on Blu-ray. Maybe, I'm sure a lot of you out there already have it. If you're at all familiar with the Quatermass stories, how essentially he was a character who was often brought in as a scientific advisor for strange goings-on, often of an extraterrestrial nature, that may sound a little familiar to you. There is absolutely zero doubt in my mind that a good chunk of the early days of John Pertwee's era were pretty heavily inspired by Quatermass. In fact, I would go so far to say that the Season 7 story, The Ambassadors of Death, could very easily have been a Quatermass story. The Mind of Evil would be another one that has a very Quatermass vibe to it. So yeah, if you like the early seasons, like in particular like seasons 7 and 8 of the classic series, the first 2 John Pertwee seasons, I would highly recommend you watch Quatermass. You're going to see so many little like thematic connections and so forth that yeah, and that's one of the reasons I was so curious to check out the Quatermass stories, was because I had heard about that, how like, yeah, in a lot of ways this is considered kind of a prototype for Doctor Who in a lot of ways, but more than that, this is actually, like, the original Quatermass serials were basically the birth of British sci-fi as we know it today. It didn't really exist before then on British television. So, yeah, you want ground zero for British sci-fi? Quatermass, baby! Yeah, it's great stuff, and I highly recommend it, especially if, as I say, if you're a Doctor Who fan, or you just like some really well-written sci-fi. And the thing that was great about them was they weren't just guys in a suit. When the alien menace or whatever was finally uncovered and you know, they figured out what they were dealing with, it wasn't just a guy in a suit. It was often something more, well, alien than that, and often influencing other humans and so forth. And like some of the, like, it's scary. It's really like genuinely scary science fiction because the threat is so alien. And I think that's something that Nigel Kneale was really good at, was presenting threats that were beyond the kinds of threats that you typically saw in science fiction. And not only that, but he also deals very heavily with character motivations and moral questions and so forth that, you know, the human characters have to deal with while they're trying to figure out this alien menace or whatever it is. I'd say, I mean, if he set out to elevate science fiction and make it a little more thought-provoking and serious, and, you know, the idea that science fiction could also be serious drama, he succeeded in spades. I mean, there's no question that he absolutely helped to pioneer that and elevate science fiction far beyond its pulp roots. And now, thanks to pioneers like Nigel Kneale, we have a whole variety of science fiction. We still have the pulpy, fun, action-adventure-y stuff, but we also have more thought-provoking stuff, cautionary tales, and, you know, deep morality plays and so forth. I remember one that he wrote for Hammer Films, which I think a lot of people approached expecting something different, and some were pleasantly surprised, others were disappointed, and that was The Abominable Snowman of the Himalayas, which I think it may have suffered a little bit from mismarketing because it came out just as Hammer was really getting into the monster movies and stuff like that. And I think some people approached it expecting it to be a straight-up monster movie. You know, the Abominable Snowman rampaging around, killing people or what have you. Yeah, they weren't expecting a Nigel Kneale story. Yeah, it stars Peter Cushing and Forrest Tucker of F Troop fame as two men who are hunting the Abominable Snowman, but for very different reasons. And the story is a lot more about them and what their motivations are and how they're, you know, helping or hindering each other, and the moral questions. Forrest Tucker more wants to hunt it, whereas Peter Cushing more wants to study it and understand it, approaching it from a more scientific perspective. So you get both sides of that. It's not really about the monster. It's about the men hunting the monster, and who is the real monster? Man or the monster? So, you know, when the Abominable Snowman does finally show up, it's a moment. Like, it is a real moment that, you know, you feel the weight of because you've spent so much time with these characters. So, yeah, the Abominable Snowman of the Himalayas is another one to check out for sure. It's, I think it's kind of a hidden gem, and I really enjoyed that one a lot. And, I mean, just generally, I'd say, thanks to Quatermass kicking it off, I've become a huge fan of the works of Nigel Kneale, and anytime I see his name attached to a project, that's basically an instant sell for me. Which brings me to our last item but certainly not least for this update. The stone tape. And of course my battery died as soon as I mentioned it, which is kind of appropriate given the subject matter. I don't remember if I was wearing my glasses in the last shot or not, so hopefully it matched up nicely. The magic of editing. So the stone tape was a TV movie that was broadcast in, was it Christmas? I think? Yeah, Christmas Day, 1972. Wow. This is as old as me. That's kind of scary. I had not heard of this before. I just was browsing various boutique labels back in the fall and winter looking for cool stuff to buy. And as soon as I saw, you know, Nigel Kneale, yeah, I didn't even need to know what it was. I knew it was going to be something special. So I have not opened this yet. So we're not going to look at the contents today. We're going to do an unboxing and closer look in the very, very near future. So keep an eye out for that. Meanwhile, I'll at least take a look at the cover here. So I got really lucky with this one because 101 Films put out this beautiful deluxe limited special edition of it in a hard box, and it's got loads of extras and everything. Yeah, I was checking up on my order. It was sold out before it even shipped. Like, this thing just flew off the shelves. I'm pretty sure they're putting out a standard edition of some kind, so if you missed out on the limited edition and you want to get this for your collection, I'm pretty sure there's a standard edition coming. But yeah, so pretty cool. And let me just show you the back here, and we'll go over the extras and whatnot. I think that's good. You don't have any glare there, do you? No. Okay, we're good. So let's take a look at the contents. I'll read the back of it to you as well, just so you kind of get an idea of what it's about. This sounds really good, and I'm actually really looking forward to watching this. I've heard nothing but good things about it. People have been just going nuts ever since this got a release. So, Nigel Kneale's The Stone Tape. 101 Films presents Nigel Kneale's The Stone Tape from 1972, released on Blu-ray for the first time. Broadcast by the BBC on Christmas Day 1972 to critical acclaim, The Stone Tape sees Kneale employing his trademark fusion of science fiction and supernatural horror to terrifying effect, and ranks among the legendary screenwriter's best work. A team of scientists, eager to discover a new recording medium, take over a brooding Gothic mansion recently purchased and renovated by their employers. On moving in, however, they find one room unfinished and the builders refusing to work there. Claims of strange noises and feelings of unease are dismissed. However, the scientists soon discover that the renovation work on the mansion has disturbed something hidden beneath the stone walls, something ancient and malevolent. Well, that sounds amazing. I'm totally sold. I gotta say, the boutique labels write some of the best copy for stuff. Like, man. Anyway, special features. We got brand new extras. Children of the Stone Tape, documentary on the lasting legacy of the Stone Tape. Out of Darkness, a visionary Manxman, short film on writer Nigel Kneale. Commentary with filmmakers John Deere and Sean Hogan. Limited edition rigid box packaging. A set of art cards. A script booklet. Another booklet including Place Memory by Andy Murray and Weird Science, The Stone Tape at 50 by John Doran. And an archival extra, commentary with Nigel Kneale himself and film critic Kim Newman. That is so cool. And I noticed it's produced by Innes Lloyd, who was actually a Doctor Who producer. And I love this little blurb in the green box there. The Stone Tape was shot on videotape for broadcast. Please approach the technical quality of this upscale with empathy. So there you go. I mean, that sounds amazing, and I can't wait to check that out. So I'll probably be doing that closer look fairly soon, because I want to open this up and watch it. Also, the extras in it sound absolutely fantastic. And we're just taking a quick look at the box here. You can see, I mean, this beautiful cover, nice and creepy. there. And the artwork actually continues on the top and the bottom. Kind of cool. And then if you look inside, you can see there's, we got the Blu-ray case, we got the art cards, and then big honkin' book, and well, 2 books actually. I'm guessing the big one is the script book. But I thought this was a mini-series like the others, but it looks like it was just a movie, just a 90-minute movie. And anyone wanting to get this for their collection, know that it is Region B locked. So make sure you have a multi-region player, or if you're in the UK, hey, you're good to go. Yeah, so really looking forward to checking that one out. So yeah, that's why I said it kind of has a bit of relevance that my battery died right then and there, because anyone who knows about paranormal investigation stuff knows that ghosts love to interfere with electronics. So just kind of funny that that happened exactly when it did. Anyway, it wasn't ghosts. I just babbled a lot and used up the battery. Great to finally have the Quatermass collection properly complete. There will be a big-ass closer look about the entire Quatermass saga coming your way, along with a closer look at this as well. Oh yeah, we're going to go closer look crazy with some of this stuff. So, yeah, that is it from me to you for now, folks. Hope you enjoyed. So, until next time, thanks for watching, and sayonara.